Hello everyone, this is Jyoti. In this video, we will be talking about Cisco Express Forwarding method of switching the packets. So as the name says, it is a Cisco proprietary method of forwarding the packets. Cisco Express Forwarding is a feature that allows a router to very quickly and efficiently make a route lookup. Much of the literature on a router's architecture divides router functions into three operational planes. So these three operational planes are management plane, control plane, and data plane. Management plane is concerned with the management of the device. For example, an administrator connecting to a router through a secure shell SSH connection through one of the router's VTY lines would be a management plane operation. Control plane is concerned with making packet forwarding decisions. For example, routing protocol operations would be a control plane function. Data plane is concerned with the forwarding of data through a router. For example, end user traffic that is traveling from a user's PC to a web server on a different network would go across the data plane. So these are the functions of these three planes. Out of these three planes, control plane and data plane most directly impact how quickly packets can flow through a router. Based on these two planes that are the control plane and data plane, there are three different approaches that the Cisco routers can take to forward packets arriving on an ingress interface or being sent out on an appropriate egress interface. In general, Cisco routers supports the following three primary modes of the packet switching. So these three modes are process switching, fast switching, and Cisco Express forwarding. So these are the three forwarding methods. Process switching is an older packet forwarding mechanism still available for Cisco routers in SAM. Fast switching is a common packet forwarding mechanism which uses a fast switching cache to store next hop information. And Cisco Express forwarding is the most recent and fastest and preferred Cisco iOS packet forwarding mechanism. Table entries are not packet triggered in Ceph like fast switching, but change triggered. So to understand this, we will discuss this in more detail. But before that, let's take an example. Let's say there are two networks. So let's take two routers, router 1 and router 2. And let's say they are connected like this. And there is some network here and here. So let's say this is router 1. This is router 2. The source network is, let's say, 192.168.1.0 network /24, and the destination is 192.168.2.0 /24 network. So let's say the source network 192.168.1.0 wants to communicate with 192.168.2.0, the destination network. So by default, according to the AND process, when the PC realizes that the destination is on a different subnet, it forwards it on the gateway. Yeah. Now the router's job is to find the next hop and then forward the packet. So it verifies the routing table and ensures that there is a destination network ID present in the routing table. If it's present, then it will find the next hop address, and based on that next hop address, it is going to forward the packet. And to forward that packet, it uses the specific exit interface entry. And finally, it forwards the packet. This is our traditional layer 3 lookup, which generally occurs in the routers, which is a default routing process. Now, Ceph is advanced to this process. Ceph ensures that the process happens much faster than the traditional process. Now, let's see the three types of forwarding methods before getting into Ceph process. Process switching, fast switching, and Cisco Express forwarding. So process switching, in case of process switching, what happens whenever a packet is arrived on a router, it will do the layer 3 lookup which is a software-based process. Then find the destination network and exit interface. And finally, going to forward the packet again. If the packet for the same destination arrives, it will do the layer 3 lookup again. So every time for any destination, even if for the same destination a packet has arrived, the router is going to do the layer 3 lookup, which will consume a lot of CPU. And this processing takes time as well. So CPU utilization is affected here. That is process switching. Whereas in fast switching, it do the same thing. It do the layer 3 lookup for a packet that is arriving. So it do the same process. When the packet arrives, the router do the layer 3 lookup, then find the destination network and the exit interface, and finally forwards the packet. But additionally, it maintains the information in the router's cache, which is the fast switching cache. So if the packet is received from the same destination, it do not need to do the lookup again. It will simply use the fast switching cache and forward the packet on the exit interface. So this is how it reduces some of the CPU utilization and time. But if the entry is not present in the cache, then it will do the normal layer 3 lookup like process switching. Now, these two methods are no more used. Cisco has introduced a new method called Cisco Express Forwarding. So in Ceph, what happens before the packet arrives, the router that is already maintaining the layer 3 routing table, now this layer 3 routing table is copied in the hardware in the ASIC chip so that the processing is done faster. So as it is copied on the hardware level in the ASIC chip, so it uses the hardware speed, the wired speed, which makes it faster. Cisco Express Forwarding is a packet forwarding or switching method that Cisco IOS use. It is the latest IP switching method developed in Cisco IOS, and it is default packet forwarding method being used now. So Ceph, by providing wired speed, at the same time, it actively maintains the copy of the routing table on the hardware. This copy in the hardware is called forwarding information base. Ceph is by default enabled in the iOS of today's networks in most of the routers. Ceph also optimizes the router to make it able to forward the packets very faster compared to the previous methods that we had, process switching and fast switching. So let's talk a little bit more in detail about Ceph. So in Ceph, most of the layer 3 switches or the routers have Ceph enabled by default. As we discussed about control plane and data plane. So control plane and data plane are the two planes that are responsible for the packet forwarding processes, but these two are relatively independent. So let's discuss a little bit more about these two planes. So basically we have two planes, control plane and data plane. In the control plane, it's more like software information, which builds a routing table called a routing information base. And based on that, Ceph copies the routing information table, that is the routing information base, into the data plane. The data plane has two tables: forwarding information base, that's the fib, that is the copy of the routing table, and adjacency table. So basically, control plane is responsible for building the routing table, and based on that, the forwarding information base is built in the data plane, and also builds an adjacency table in which it maintains the exit interface information. So for a destination which is in the forwarding information base table, it will not do the layer 3 lookup every time. It is pre-built in the hardware, which provides hardware speed, ensuring the packets travel faster. So another representation of these control plane and data plane is this, where the control plane is the layer 3 engine and the data plane is the layer 3 forwarding engine that you can see here. So the control plane builds the routing information table, the routing information base, and copies the routing information base as forwarding information base in the hardware. The data plane forwards the IP unicast traffic in the hardware. So when a packet is arrived on a router, it will do the lookup in the forwarding information table, forwarding information base, and based on that, it will find the exit interface in the adjacency table and simply going to forward the packet, which use the wired speed, the hardware speed, as the forwarding information table and the adjacency table are on the hardware on the ASIC chip. Now to verify Ceph, let's take a small example with a small lab. So this is the lab we are using for verification of Ceph, Cisco Express Forwarding. So we are taking 3 routers here, router 1, router 2, and router 3. These are the IP addresses that you can see here on the screen. 10, 10, 10, 0 network and 12, 12, 12, 0 network we are using. So for routing, we have configured EIGRP already. The IPs are configured, EIGRP is configured. Now let's verify. Let's go to router 1, the first router. And here, first let's verify routing. So let's do show IP EIGRP neighbors and see the neighbors. Now show IP route and let's see the routing table. So as I said, in the routers nowadays, Ceph is by default enabled. So to verify Ceph table, the command is show IP Ceph. So this is the forwarding information base, that is the copy of the routing table that is in the hardware. So here you can see the Ceph table or the forwarding information base. So here you can see the entries of the destination network, the next hop, and the exit interface. So for example, for a specific destination, let's say 12, 12, 12, 0 network, this is the next hop, and this is the exit interface. So simply, if any packet arrives for this destination, it will simply look into the Ceph table and forward it on the exit interface. So this is something which is pre-built. Ceph table is pre-built or automatically built based on the routing table to avoid the software-based layer 3 lookup, and thus it reduces the CPU processing by providing hardware or the wired speed. In case you want to disable Ceph, which is not recommended, but to disable Ceph, you just have to go to the configuration mode and put no IP Ceph, and it will be disabled. Now let's go back and verify again, show IP Ceph. See, it is giving you a message that IP version 4 Ceph is not running. Now you can enable it back just by typing IP Ceph and then verify show IP Ceph. Now it's present again. So in this video, we have discussed about Ceph, Cisco Express Forwarding. I hope you liked it. Thank you for listening.